Hi, this is Laura again from Healing with Spirit. This is video 3 of a series of 3 on 3 lessons 2019 taught us, 3 things to know about navigating the 2020 energies and what it all means. In video 1, I went into more of a reflection of what 2019 revealed for me and what 2019 taught us, and there were many, but I only really focused on 3. Video 2, I went deeper into why spiritually bypassing our way through life will no longer work moving forward as an addictive drug, and why this won't work anymore. And now in video 3, we're going to go into the 3 things you need to know about the energies in 2020 moving forward and what it all means. So our culture is so uncomfortable with the concepts of pain, grief, and other negative feelings like we discussed in the second video with spiritual bypassing. And they only want to discuss or address these things if they're more sanitized, pleasant conditions. Again, this is like a form of spiritual bypassing, okay? And this casts shame on things like grief, anger, and other less pleasant emotions, casting them into the shadows. And if we never shine light down there, then these shadows can fester like an unhealed open wound, and it can really take a toll on our life and our health and on our plan of why we came here. And the denial mechanisms around them can become more and more what we can see as being desperate. So moving forward in the 2020 energies, the idea of spiritual bypassing our way through life will not help anyone anymore, okay? Trading one feel-good addiction for another is more harmful than good, because we are actually stewards of this great mother who's crying right now and begging for us to pay attention to her needs from a selfless place. Okay, we are stewards, and it's here where we must return to our priorities. It is our collective sacred duty. 2020 will create remarkable opportunities for us to move forward with diligence and courage, depending on your actual birth date, and how and when these changes take place is different for all of us. Okay, keep that in mind. And with a full commitment and conscious engagement, we can open doors to immense success, happiness, and financial flow in all of our lives moving in 2020. So we got to look at 2020 as the year of accomplishment, making our dreams real, but that is just part of the story. So moving forward, consider these 3 aspects. The first one is space weather, including cosmic rays, solar cycles, and the Earth's changing poles. So that we are still having minimal solar activity, which is predicted to continue, and which actually affects our personal energies, the electrical circuit of the Earth, as well as our electronic devices. Okay, we are also experiencing a more rapid shift with the poles, which I'm curious to see from the cosmologists if this is actually what's triggering a lot of the extreme weather that we're having right now. And so it's important that if you tend to be sensitive, that you get connected and know if you're sensitive to space weather. Because when the sun is actually and it's not spewing off solar flares, and it's not spewing off coronal hole streams or any kind of solar wind, that makes the Earth more porous to what they call cosmic rays from distant galaxies, okay? And it makes our shield more porous. So it's important that if you tend to be and you find yourself going in fluctuations, and it tends to go in alignment with a lot of these things, one of the things that I know I look at is what's called the KP index, and I would highly encourage you to look at it and to see if you see those changes, to see if that affects you physically. And if it does, then what I would recommend is that you learn how to navigate that flow, because that's something you can't control or change. You just have to learn how to navigate that flow. So the second one important aspect going into 2020 that's important to understand is that this is a 4-year in numerology. So it's important to know how to work with the universe than against the flow, right? Remember we were talking about the flow. The first and the second video, we talked about flow, okay? So it's all about mastering that flow. So it's a 4-year collectively. I know my personal numerology is a 5, so there's a lot of change that's going to be happening in my life based on that number. But when we understand the numerology code for 2020, it unveils a new operating manual for the next decade. And this is where we can implement a code of peace. We can get 2020 vision. And we also can take that responsibility where we will help us create results and security all year round. So this is a number associated with work ethics and just getting it done. So if you've got a business or a business you were thinking of starting, this is a good year to get it done. You are also being asked in 2020 to be fully invested in creating a foundation for long-lasting success, security, and grounding by building something of value that stands the test of time. We cannot build businesses the old way, the old-fashioned way. I also see this number really directly connected to that divinity that's within us and the divinity that we've been tapping into. So it's using that divinity within to help us build something in the material world. It's that yin and the yang, it's the balance. But it's not coming from the egoic mind, it's coming from the spiritual plane to help us build that success. That number 4 also calms us down. So for those of you who might tend to be very anxious, you might find that you're not as anxious this year. It helps us focus on what really matters and ultimately helps us build our dreams. So when it comes to building on what matters, this is where that social justice piece really does come into play. Social justice is also an important aspect to face some of the things that we need to do. It's some of the spiritual acts that we need to take care of. Honoring and being stewards of Mother Earth and all these other things, helping those that are less fortunate, whether it's animal, plant, or human. That's your choice. We all have our own soul path as long as we're acting on it, because we're all pieces to the larger puzzle, and it's important that we understand that and for all the pieces to come together in order for our great mother to become whole again. So some of the key words to focus on for 2020 and this number 4 numerology are going to be focus, inclusivity. So that means for those of you who know nothing about whitewashing, white privilege, diversity, race, you need to get quick schooled on dealing with that, because this is a year for inclusivity, not exclusivity. Okay? We include all races, all ethnicities. This is about the ultimate melting pot, okay, coming together. This is about spiritual growth. It's about owning our truth and cultivating that deep inner spirit and really also cultivating that relationship with that ancestral wisdom and healing that is so desperately needed right now. Okay, so that's what this year is really focused on a 4 level. The third aspect to focus on is addressing our shadows within, checking in versus checking out, leading with versus ignoring the spirit within, right? We just talked about the 4 numerology. So this is the other component. Okay, we are clearing centuries of egoic form of living, belief systems, and the disconnect with all life that is divine. Okay, you want to think of, in that sense, what comes to mind is, oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart on the movie. I will think about it. Avatar. It brings to mind that movie Avatar, okay, that connecting in and everything is connected, okay? When we tap into that wisdom, everything flows, okay? There's also those that will still continue to resist, so it's important for us that have been doing the work that we need to hold the space. So checking in and making sure that we're energy balanced and making sure that we're holding space for those that hopefully can find their way back, and also help us hold the space for those that continue to search. Okay, so for those who will resist, there's going to be those who resist and then those who get it. So for those who get it, it's important that you stay on the path. I had a vision a few years ago saying a lot of chaos, which is And a lot of it is exactly what we're seeing in Australia right now with all the burning. And what I heard was very clear. We're going to see a lot of this, whether it's the Amazon, Australia, the floods in the southern United States, the floods that are happening throughout Asia and the Middle East. These are going to happen, this for whatever reason, whether again it's the poles shifting and it's amplifying storms, I'm not sure. But we are individuals. We can't fix everything. What we can do is hold space and do our own inner work. So we have to stay on the path. It doesn't mean that we don't help our neighbor that's here and there. But on the grand scheme, it can get very overwhelming very quickly. But if we each stay in our path and we both act as we're supposed to, the collective will feed off of that. I'm hoping I make sense with that, okay? So not everything we experience is going to be literal or material. We saw a lot of this happening in 2019. It's all about being in that present moment, whatever that happens to look like. That's important, okay? What are we experiencing right now? And how about now? Can you be present to all of your feelings without any one of them defining you or creating judgment? Just things for you to think about. Now, what does this all mean moving forward? It means that we stand in our truth unapologetic. It means that we speak out for those who do not have a voice. It means that we call out and address predatory behavior, infiltrating sacred spaces and protecting those preyed upon by predators. It means that we do not stay silent. It means that when we stay silent and don't speak up for those victims of abuse, violence, racism, for the outsider, for the bullied, for the betrayed, that victim suffers. And we've got an epidemic of unresolved trauma. So we are creating a society of victims that can't sustain. And this is what we're faced with right now. This is the paradox. We need to heal this piece right here. This is the key to it all. Okay, the minute we can start aligning with that versus avoiding that, then everything else will become whole again. Okay, the victim shaming is rampant, and especially, believe it or not, in New Age and spiritual-based communities. When we speak out against injustice, they are often a lot of times ignored or shamed for their so-called victim consciousness. So, which just adds more insult to injury and really isn't, it's actually a form of spiritual bypassing as well. So we're not necessarily stepping into activism, which is part of spiritual being, which is part of being a spiritual being. We are stewards, okay? And activism is part of being a steward. So we ensure, so it's important that you ensure that if you are a business person and you have a brick and mortar store, or even if you do things on the internet, it's important that you create a safe, sacred space for your clients, for your students, and for the public to arrive at. And make sure that any kind of predatory behavior is addressed immediately, that it is not ignored. This also means that we change the way we live and address simple things that we can do now, such as stop buying Nestle, aka Poland Spring. I mean, what's happening in Michigan, they still don't have clean water. This is inexcusable, okay? So, and then I was watching a report that in other countries, the water is so tainted that 5 and 6 year old kids are drinking Coca-Cola because it's actually healthier than drinking water out of the faucet. Folks, we've got a crisis here. I don't know what else we need to have us rise up against this and out of our cushy homes to actually act on this. Because for those of you in your cushy homes, it's going to affect you eventually. You just, it's important for us to deal with it now so we can all heal from this. It's important that we invest in ourselves and in our health. That means we walk the walk 110%, okay, not 99%. So how is your diet? Are you consuming medicine or are you consuming poison? And here's the other thing, discernment is key. So that helps us to uncover that soul lesson, the experience that came to teach us, will also help us let go of those traumatic details that are irrelevant to our own integrity. So it also means that we walk the walk and do not hide behind the screen. Maintain that sense of awareness and that presence. And as I mentioned in video 1, that this aspect of learning to tap into the wisdom of the body is going to continue to grow. The need for this is going to continue. So it's important to tune into our emotions. That's a good start. But the more that we can face them instead of repressing them or amplifying them, the healthier we'll become and the better equipped we'll be to be stewards for this planet as well. So it also means now that we do the inner work. No more spiritual bypassing. We need to do the inner work. It is actually required. Okay? Healing sucks. I get it. It means that we got to dive into the shadows. We got to dive into the fears, the chaos, and the pain. It means that getting real and getting raw. It means that that butterfly in that cocoon will turn to liquid if it emerges too soon, and it will die. So everything happens and it has its processing. We have to be able to pause and process and allow things to unfold. We are trying to force things to happen faster than the universe happens. And it doesn't work this way. This is why we're getting this backlash. Okay? And it means also loving all of you, not just the good side, but also that dark, shadowy side, loving all that part. When you can bring that and bring that shadow into the light or that light into the shadow and make them the yin and the yang, that's where we have balance. The shadow will no longer control our lives. Okay? The light will then just shine brightly without the effort. Okay? Just like the sun rises every day and the night returns every night. It's cyclical. Okay? And as an empath, okay, and I'm speaking as an empath, as a healer, as an intuitive, and as a trauma specialist, we will continue to see this unresolved trauma surface, whether, again, it's personal, generational, karmic, and past life. So the ideas around power and control, manipulation will also continue to be seen. So it's important. Again, this is also an election year. This is important to face these things. When we continue to come face to face with our shadows, the more we surrender the stories of that whole egoic mind that these stories are created in, and into the flow of the universe, of that intuitive soul, of that self, that intuitive soulful self of ours will continue to rise, and things will start to become more effortless and flow with ease. And finally, this is election year. I know some people don't like bringing in politics and elections and spirituality. Well, I hate to say it. If I avoid this subject, that's spiritual bypassing. So, I'm not telling you what to do except for this. This is election year. The universe is asking you to vote. And not only vote, but vote with your consciousness, not by party affiliation. Do not let the external world to brainwash you with the advertising and the bullcrap, manipulate you, bully you, or intimidate you into swaying your truth. You only know your truth. I can't tell you your truth. Only you know your truth. So what does the spirit within you say? Go there. Vote from that place. That's all I'm asking you to do, and that's all the universe is asking all of us to do, is to vote from that place. Let's take shame out of our unrealistic, egoic expectations of being spiritual by sharing our experiences and being okay with it. Understand these are just experiences and stories. And life is a journey and a lesson for the evolution of the soul to be explored. That exploration will continue in 2020. And when we can see this as a journey, as an exploration of the soul versus poor woe is me or me, why me, then you might start seeing things shift a little bit differently. It is a shit show. This This is multi-layered. This is multifaceted. Some of this is individual and some of this is collective. As I said, this is a shit show. Yes, it is. If we choose to see it this way, or we can choose to see what is happening as an opportunity, which brings me to say someone said to me early on in my healing path, we can choose this. What do you choose? I'm hoping that this will help open your eyes and a plan for you to move forward, moving into 2020. There's a lot of things happening, and I'm here to guide you. If you would like a chart done, if you would like a reading, or you would like a healing, please reach out. I do have multiple events coming up, including the Women's Retreat, which will be going more into the numerology piece and the ancestral piece. Please join us. So links will be in the description. And again, I thank you for being a part of this grand experiment called life with me and supporting my work. And this completes video 3. Video 1, we talked about the reflections of 2019 and 3 lessons 2019 taught us. In video 2, we talked more about why spiritually bypassing our way through life will just no longer work. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day.